What's the secret you discovered that made you leave your ex? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. The guy she was cheating on me with found out about me. He found me at a bar, told me about it, bought me a drink, and I immediately got on the phone and broke up with her. I'm not going to go into super deep detail, but it was nice to have an honorable dude give me the warning instead of weeks of suspicion. I was about to get an apartment with her, and I dodged a bullet. Another story. Some random dude at a bar last week dropped the news that my roommate, best friend of more than a decade now, BTW, had been sleeping with my ex-GF for at least the past 6 months. We broke up about 4 months ago, and he was by my side while I broke down over that LOL. I really appreciate the guy at the bar for that. He also bought me a drink too. Story 2. She went out with her friends one night. I had a headache and didn't feel like going anywhere, so I stayed in. She had before, so we did the whole location sharing thing. This idiot still goes to this guy's house and doesn't come home till 5 a.m. Truth was, I didn't have a headache. I had a feeling she was talking to him again, so I let it happen. Happened on a Friday night, and Saturday night we had a dinner planned with her parents who were in town. I figured I'd suffer through it, work on finding a new place to live immediately, and then next week just disappear. Saturday night at dinner, her mom says, "Let me know when you want to propose and I'll give you my ring." My ex nudges me and says, "Yeah, when are you gonna ask, huh?" I laughed so hard during the interaction, knowing she was with someone else less than 24 hours earlier. Sunday morning, she starts going in on me about the dishes as I'm doing them. I finally got so fed up, I just laughed and said, "So where were you Friday night?" She turned white. Story 3. One of my best friends had something similar. From our group of friends, he was the one who first got the most serious and stable relation-wise, perhaps even too serious. When he started his PhD, they were already like 8 years together. One day, by accident, he discovered his GF had booked a hotel he was not aware of. After some sniffing and investigation, it seems she booked there suspiciously regularly. Turned out she was cheating on him like mad. Just met with men in that hotel. We discovered she did this with at least 9 different men, often several of these different projects going on at once. Quite sickening to discover with people you know so well. My friend ended up having an alcohol addiction, is married now many years later, but still struggling with these demons. Story 4. She was talking to a guy in another state. Decided she liked him better. He was coming to see her, and that's when I found out about him. She basically told me he wasn't going to be happy to see me around and to go away. Well, the joke was on her because he came to tell her he found someone at home and was breaking up with her. After he left, she decided to come crawling back to me, and as much as I wanted to get back with her, I just couldn't trust her. Story 5. The coworker he was worried I was attracted to, I was. The difference is, I never talked to him outside of work-related things and shut him down immediately when he showed interest in me. A girl coworker gave my ex 1 ounce of attention, and he cheated and left me for her almost immediately. Later regretted it and said the grass isn't always greener. Now he's with her because I wouldn't move back with him, and he didn't want to be lonely. Glad I stayed on my side of the lawn. I would never want to be the one responsible for how awful another person feels because I couldn't stay faithful at work. A partner should never have to feel insecure about you going to your job. Story 6. He was a recovered addict that I had known well since we were 17-18s, then together for years in our mid-late 22nd. Turned out he never really stopped, used drugs in our apartment constantly while I slept, and when he stopped being able to contribute to bills and groceries, I found out he had gambled every penny he had left away on a mobile app. Once it was put into perspective, he left willingly for my sake. I hope he's better now. I don't hate him, but I hate what he was doing to both of us. Edit, punctuation. Story 7. His addiction to cam girl sites. I found out via the insane credit card bill that he could no longer hide. As the credit card was through his bank and he'd maxed out his already insane credit limit, and the bank had started taking 80% of his deposited paychecks to pay it down. The CC bill was over $150,000 when I discovered it, and he could no longer pay his share of household bills due to the bank garnishing his check to pay down the balance. Seriously, what the though? Is free and of wasn't a thing yet split in 2015. How TF do you rack up $150,000 on camgirl sites? In secret, no less? Like, where was he even watching and interacting with those sites? In the bathroom at work or something? We were literally together every waking minute outside of work. We were together for 9.5 years at that point. Smart man tanked his relationship and credit all in one go. Story 8. He always claimed to be the funny one in the relationship, making it part of his personality. For background, he cheated on me, but that's not the secret. Honestly, I was probably going to forgive him if it weren't for this. Afterwards, I found his secret Twitter account where he followed all the girls he told me not to worry about, and all his tweets were my jokes and clever observations that he never laughed at. And now he's using my comedy to seem funny and cool to other girls. Story 9. Well, it was our 5th wedding anniversary and he left his phone downstairs. He says now that he knew, and that's why he ran down once he realized that he left it. But he had videos of my closet, my designer bags and luxury items, videotaped by him, and offering all of my belongings up escorts whose names looked like they were methamphetamine. That night, he left and 2 $100 bills were missing and a Prada bag I've never seen again. He had a Snapchat story up and was gone for only about an hour and a half because I waited up after nursing our newborn. I was done. Seeing his hand go through my clothes, my stuff, showing a stranger. It was so violating and invasive. I was so grossed out. Story 10. The first girlfriend I had, she wanted us to run each other's credit to make sure we were financially compatible. I said sure, so she signed up for her credit report, I signed up for mine. She gave me a copy of her Experian report, a PDF copy, and it looked good, so it ticked off the box of fiscally responsible. A few weeks later, I overheard her talking to 2 different collection agencies, and I wondered why she would be, if her credit score was over 780. I confronted her about it, and she told me she doctored the credit report because she liked me, and she had horrible credit. I told her I would have stayed with her if she was making an effort to clean up her financial past, but I couldn't overlook the lying. Story 11. She didn't pay the rent. Got upset with her and asked her if she could pay it. I'd already paid my portion to her to send to the landlord. She said she did. Few days later, I get a message from the landlord asking for the rest. She still hadn't paid it all. Finally, I spoke to the landlord myself and took some money out of my savings to pay the rent. Found out after I got the number amount from the landlord and doing the math that she hadn't only not paid the rent and lied, then just paid a part of it and lied, but she also pocked $50 of the rent money I had paid that she was meant to send to the landlord. I'd already had one foot out the door of the relationship by then, but this is what made me actively start looking for other places to live. Story 12. Her and I had been high school best friends and dated for a little bit before she broke up with me after we graduated. We remained friends, had conversations to reconcile, and continued to be in contact with each other for over 18 years. We had a silly pact where we would marry each other if we were over 35 and single. Well, we were both single, done with dating, obviously had chemistry, and decided to say screw it and go for it slowly. We were all in. I didn't think anything otherwise and didn't suspect a thing. She lived about 2 hours away by plane on a direct flight, so seeing each other was easy. Well, after a few months, she had a manic episode and went missing, so I called her parents, and they hadn't heard from her in a week. They were out of town. So they were sending her sister to check on her and calling friends. I called her work at the deli she worked at. The moment I said that this was her boyfriend, her boss said, "Well, I'm her boyfriend." Suffice to say, she'd been living a double life. He'd been giving her money for her flights to visit sick family members, me, and see my dying dad that she said was her uncle to him. I had also helped her a couple times for flights too, so she was pocketing the money. Her family and I were in contact during the whole thing, so I told them what was happening, and she didn't like that because she got exposed to the fraud she is to her family. Story 13. She worked at one of the stores I had merchandise for years. My relationship ended, so a few months later I approached this girl and gave her my number. She texted enthusiastically, but said she had just gotten out of a relationship so wouldn't want to rush into anything. So I was like, hey, me too. We got along really well, hung out every day for 9 months. Then over the phone one night when I was on vacation, she teased me when she heard me say to my mom that I was talking to a friend. She's like, a friend, eh? I said, let's talk about that when I get home. It'd been 9 months, so I'm like, okay, it's safe to say we're together now. She got quiet and stopped texting me. I was so confused, no explanation. So I made a Facebook and looked her up. She never broke up with the boyfriend. Essentially cheated on both of us for 9 months. That was fun. I messaged the guy and told him to call me. When I told him, first thing he said was, "It's not the first time she's done this." Then he said, "She told me you guys hooked up once a couple months ago?" I was like, no, we've hooked up nearly every day, sometimes twice a day for the past 9 months. They're still together, just had a kid. Story 14. I always suspected because he liked all her stuff on Facebook, but barely liked my stuff anymore. But maybe it's just the algorithm, right? I rationalized it. Then during a get-together with our friends, my stomach drops when I see her face walk in the door. I hold it together for about 3 hours, but I can't help see how they light up when they talk to each other. Then I went to the bathroom to throw up and get myself back together. I was overreacting, seeing things that weren't there. It was just anxiety coming from my last relationship ending with him cheating. I spent an hour there crying and he didn't even check on me. I finally go out and don't see either of them. IDK what compelled me, but I looked for them. And there they were, on top of each other. Neither of them even looked at me. They just stopped and stared at the wall like I wasn't there, said nothing. He denied it till the day I blocked him. Oh, he said she was just drunk and he was there for her. I wanted to say I needed him to be there for me, but there was no point. There was no rational thought in his words. He was just spewing out whatever he thought would be easiest to end the conversation. It didn't matter what I said because he didn't care, but even his friends admitted it. And now she's his GF and I've never been able to love since. Story 15. After 7 years of cheating, minimal effort, abuse, and suicide threats. Every time we fought, I came home from working a 16-hour shift on my birthday. I was paying all the bills while his money went to weed and video games. I came home and he wouldn't talk to me and told he tried to HNJ himself and wrote his note on the back of printed out pages from court of my parents, neglect and abuse, and forced me to reread it in front of him while screaming at me that it was my fault because I was gone all day and he forgot it was my birthday and didn't give me anything again, which was again somehow my fault. Left that night, moved back into my grandma's, and he had another girl moved in a week later. Oh, we were also supposed to get married a month after I left. From what I've heard, he's now gotten himself into major therapy and is doing a lot better, and I met the love of my life and have been married for 3 years to a man who worships me. Alright folks, that's a wrap. If you like this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your those in the comment below.